Hello, welcome everybody to today's Cafecito. We were going to have an incredible guest, but unfortunately something came up. So it's just me here and all of you joining for today's Cafecito. If you're interested in hopping on with me, just let me know here in the comments and I'll send you the link and you can maybe join me. This is a great opportunity, but I'm just so excited and a little bit cold to be here with all of you on this last Wednesday of January. Can you believe it? We are already a month into this year. Time just flies so fast, which is amazing. So I want to use this time to chat about a couple of things that have been circling in my mind, and what a great opportunity to share with you. And if you have any comments, by all means, feel free to share as well. But the first one I think has to do with our goals and what are our intentions for 2025. We've been having different conversations in different forums across United Latinas to say, what's our word for this year? Because I think defining a word for the year can help us stay focused and have clarity and intentionality in terms of what are we going to accomplish this year. And I've heard many of our members come up with beautiful words and powerful words, like fearless is one of them that keeps coming up. And gratitude is another one. Impact is another one. So one of the things that I would love for all of you that are watching right now or on the replay is to think about, what is your word? What is your intentional word for this year? And we need to think about it from a lot of different lenses, right? Not only from what's important to us in that moment and what it means to our current situation, but also what do we want that word, how do we want that word to guide us throughout the year? That's also going to be important. So that is something that we've been meaning to share. And for those of you that follow us on the newsletter, you'll definitely see it in this newsletter, to share your word. And when we share our word with others, then it creates ripples effect, because now it's not only holding us accountable, but helping others hold us accountable, that also, right? We need that community of support. I know that I need that community of support all the time. But hey, we just see our guest coming up. I'll bring her right in. But I wanted to share that about the word, and I'll bring up our guest. Hey, Yvette, so good to see you. Excited that you were able to make it here with us. How
Thank
are
you so
you
much.
today?
Doing good. Thank you. Just running a little bit late with the other meetings that I was having, but very happy to be here. And thank you for inviting me to talk to your audience.
That
And
is
I already prepared
wonderful.
my cafecito, but it's a tea.
Ah, for me, it's a water today.
Okay.
It's so dry because of the cold that I feel like I need some water. So thank you so much for joining us, and I was so looking forward to our conversation on negotiation, because I think that is something that we all need to be better at, especially today. I mean, always, right? But today and age, if we see the significant gaps of women in leadership positions, of Latinas in leadership positions, and then also as entrepreneurs, negotiation definitely has something to do with part of not being able to get to those higher positions, because we may have some things that can be some hurdles and some barriers to help us to move forward. So I would love to start, if you can share a little bit about you and what you do, and how did you get into teaching negotiating, which I know is your sweet spot.
Thank you. Well, the way that I started was that I bumped into a master's degree that I fell in love with. I was planning to advance my career because maybe other Latinas will recognize this pattern that we feel that we don't have enough, or we don't have enough education. And we go to the extremes of, building and building and building, going through certification, hoping that we were going to get opportunities in the work. And that is one of the things that, as a Latina, I realized that I was following the same idea. Let me get my master's. Let me do this. Let me do that. And I was aiming for an MBA, and all of a sudden, through the search, a colleague of mine that I was working with at the University of San Diego, California, suggested these master's degree in negotiation and conflict resolution, and it was kind of like love at first seen. I saw the degree and I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what I need. Something deep within me realized that those were skills that I needed the most. And yes, probably the MBA would have landed me more towards adding or stacking more into my international business degree. But I noticed that this was a skill that it was very much needed, because I was already working in an environment of highly educated individuals that, I experienced a lot of leaders that didn't treat people very well. I also had the experience of my father, who didn't have any education whatsoever, who ran a very successful business, and everybody adored him, because he was such an amazing leader, and someone that would look through situations and conflict in ways that were very productive and very positive. Like, let's figure it out. What is the learning from this, right? Instead of pointing fingers to people. So that really intrigued me, and I went into this field of work that it's called alternative dispute resolution. That's the field, what it's called. And I went full blown on it. I wanted to develop a very good expertise and experience on it. What I had not done with my bachelor's degree, because I was raising a family. I have kids. I wanted to have a job that will close at 4:30, right? And I can be home fully for my children. And with this master's degree, I said, I love it. I want to go full on. And that's how it all started. I remember my gift as a graduation gift and birthday gift was going into the county and paying for my business license almost 13 years ago. And I said, well, little by little, I'm going to be building my consulting work while I'm still working full time, because I happen to be a single mom, with one income. And to this hour of the day, that's the same thing. Even though my children have grown up, it's just me, and that I'm very passionate about my work and in the benefit that I see that it can lead to other people. I'm always very empathic, very selfless. And I think that that's why I was so attracted to this field of work, because I could see the potential that I can provide and give to other people. Yeah. And especially for women.
I love that. And I think it becomes critically important to recognize, and you just talked about it, to recognize not only where we might need to, grow more our skills or strengthen our skills, but also which types of skills are going to help us into whatever it is that the impact that we want to create, right? And because that'll give us an extra motivation, an extra drive. And you mentioned it, and I love to learn more about this alternative dispute resolution, because definitely there's a lot of different strategies and ways to go about it, but I love that. So, but before we go into those details, negotiation is important, period. Like knowing how to negotiate, it's like knowing how to effectively communicate. It's like knowing how to lean on our emotional intelligence. There are all these different skills, to your point, that we need to really hone in and focus and develop if we want to get to whatever it is, our growth path in our professional career. But specifically for women and specifically for Latinas, it is something that we don't regularly keep in mind and that it becomes critically important. So can you tell us a little bit more why it's something that before you joined us, I was talking about the intentionality of the words and the goals that we set ourselves for 2025. And that might be something that to our audience, they might want to think about, like bringing negotiation as something that they want to focus to be better at this year. Why would it be important?
Well, first and foremost, learning skills is not very linear. It's not about just getting a book and reading a book and figuring out some techniques here and there. It is a people skills that you really need to have experiential processes in order to learn it. Negotiation, especially for women, I have found that, when I first started, I was training women in skills in negotiation. And I realized very soon that they were not grasping, they were not using the skills. And one of the things that I discovered that really resonated with me is that you cannot embed such a skill into a human being, and in women and men, because if you don't understand what are the values and beliefs that are running you, they're not going to fit with the negotiation skill. And let me explain it this way. And many women here will recognize this, right? We're the Latino women. We're a culture that it's raised in the idea that we are supposed to be very empathic, right? We are supposed to be there for other people. That whatever we gain, we should be okay with it and be happy with it and feel blessed with it, right? And we shouldn't move any corners, or we shouldn't stretch our opportunities, because we should have or be with the idea that we have enough with what we get. And that is a mentality that I found myself dealing with, that I hadn't recognized until I finished this degree and I was teaching these courses. I could see myself into what would have been the possibilities if I would have had learned in an earlier age how to negotiate, but not necessarily the skill, but also realizing how I was raised. And that was led me to a persecution of learning and learning and learning. I have an 18-page curriculum, because with that idea in mind that I had to learn more and I have to be more and I have to do more in order to be able to get those opportunities in the workplace, without even realizing that I lacked those people skills and those leadership skills in order to be able to have a say in the table, in order to be able to negotiate from earlier years of my career. I realized it was very painful to realize about how much money that I have left on the table, because I never asked. I never even asked my coworkers, how much they were being paid. I was the one that was being paid way less. And that was because somebody might have taught them to negotiate their salaries, right? And where I was like, okay, is that what you're going to give me? Okay, I would be quiet. I'm happy with that. And I realized, older in the age, that I left in the table, between 10 to 15 to $20,000 every single year. Because I wasn't getting that on my paycheck, and I wasn't putting that on my 401ks and my retirement. Therefore, I'm one of those generations that is going to end up with very low amount of money in my retirement if I don't step up and I don't hurry up and build more now that I'm in my own business, right? So that was a very painful reality to see that, how that turned into money, into dollars in that you didn't have in your bank accounts. And I'm pretty sure a lot of women can attest to that, and maybe perhaps they haven't paid attention, but once you realize and you pay attention, how much money have you left in the table just because you didn't have the skills in the values within you to be able to negotiate.
You bring up a really important point that I just jotted down. I think it also has to do with that awareness, right? We don't know what we don't know, and you sort of mentioned that.
Mhm.
We don't know that we can negotiate in certain situations. We don't know that when they give you an offer, whatever offer, it doesn't matter if it's a house, if it's a car that you're buying, if it's, you're negotiating your salary, you're negotiating whatever it is that you're negotiating, there
Yeah.
is always room. People are always coming in at a certain point, but they have room and bandwidth for that negotiation. And that was something that was shared with me, and I was like, oh, so I can actually ask for more,
Mhm.
right? But if, to your point, if nobody tells you that there's these ways that people are already coming to the table knowing that they have leeway to be able to give you more or pull less, they're going to
Mhm.
use that. And I think, to your point, the values of that are instilled in many of us, of just say thank you, just be grateful that you're even given the opportunity to be at that negotiation table, or that you are being given the opportunity to have this. So just be grateful, and even if it's not worth what you want, just say thank you, and humbly. And I think
Exactly.
that
And
that has a lot of weight in the, we don't know what we don't know, but once people tell you, then the values are still there. But I think now you have a point of reference to be able to say, oh, if that person did this, or if this person did that, then maybe I can do that as well and still be aligned with my values. But now you have the tactics, or the examples, or the strategies to be able to negotiate, right?
right, correct. I remember almost 13 years ago when I look at the statistics um, of how is the pay gap of women.
Yeah,
I remember seeing the statistics to be 81 cents. Women earn 81 cents to, no,
yeah.
yeah, excuse me. It was 73 cents to that of a dollar for a white man. That was 13 years ago. Little did I pay attention to the ethnicities. I never did that research. And in the past couple of years, I have been doing a lot of research because I wanted to put forth a book on women negotiation that it's geared more to those women of color that are the ones that are being paid the least. Um, and back in the days, I remember seeing that gap, but never paying attention that distinctively between ethnicities we would be less. It was in these past few years that I came across more research. And I think that the diversity, equity, inclusion pushed that into the research, into really starting to figure it out what was the pay gap of women. And and I noticed that there was about almost 9 cents to a dollar for white women that went up. But back 13 years ago, I was I was believing that it was throughout the spectrum of all women. That's 73 cents per dollar of a man until recent years with DEI in place, and that pushed the research more into seeing the ethnicities. I realized that the Latinas were the least well paid. We're like almost, what is it, 57 cents to a dollar?
52 actually, for last
And
year was 52.
yeah, the thing is that, there's a lot of research studies, and one of the very good research done by the Leaning Latinas, that was one of them. But then if you go to the U.S. Business, Employment Bureau, you find slightly numbers, slight pennies of the information, but it is still very eye opening that women of color, Latinas, were the least paid. The interesting thing is that it's the ones that get paid better, Asian, um, then then the women of color, and then Latinas were the least. And and I can understand culturally, why is that, right? We come from a very collective culture in where we put priorities as family first, right? And and sometimes, in comparison to other ethnicities or other cultures, we we still believe that family is the most important thing in our families, right? And we put more emphasis on that, and we decide to step back into your career development in order to be able to be there for the family. That is exactly what I did in my career for many, many years. I didn't even rock the boat, didn't even dream about getting a different type of job or anything like that would pay me more, because I wanted to be in a job that I could do with my eyes closed, because my priority was my family, right? And without even understanding that I could have both, that I could do both, but I didn't know how to negotiate. I
Yeah.
always thought, the business is going to require this, therefore I'm going to have to do it. But I didn't know that I could negotiate in my terms, right? And be able
Yeah.
to have pretty much all of it. And that
Yeah.
put me behind on my career a lot of years. Also, little that I knew when I got my bachelor's degree, what it meant to have a bachelor's degree. You know,
Oh yeah.
I remember going off the university and applying for a receptionist job. Little that I knew that I already had something of so much value that I could have been put in a position in a business in where they could have developed me because I had already that document. I didn't know
Yeah.
that either. And
Yeah.
again, that positioned me years behind in my career and in my pay gap because I didn't
Correct.
know any better. And
Correct.
because of that, that came a passion of developing a book for women negotiation that I'm still putting the little touch here and there, and I'm hoping to have it ready by March, which is Women Month. That is my hope, that I put all those little touches in there and fix it in a way that it could be of value to awaken women in a positive way. And what I'm saying in a positive way, I'm saying that, you know, we don't have to masculine ourselves in order to negotiate. And that is one of the things that is being sold out there in the negotiation courses that
I
you.
I love what you're saying, and I want to quickly tap into that before, because we should do these of an hour, because sometimes we get so invested in them, and we only have a couple of minutes left. But how can you've already shared really good tips, but how can we prepare for negotiation? What are the key things that we need to do?
Yes, first and foremost, the techniques of interest-based negotiation is the most novel one to be used by women. There's a lot of techniques out there that are very hardcore negotiation skills that I don't recommend for women, because the interest-based negotiation feels good. Feels good because you know that you're coming in and walking in into a negotiation, also not only taking care of your personal needs, but also acknowledging the other interests of the other person, right? So it puts you in a state in where you don't feel that uncomfortable to go in a negotiation, because sometimes people think that negotiation is a win-loss situation. That is what we are believing always to think. And as a child, that was the idea that I was brought into, that when you're negotiating is like win it all and let the other person lose all. And that was so scary, because in the contrary, where I was also raised to be very empathic, taking care of everybody else needs, and getting everybody for everybody else, right? We become extremely good negotiators when we go to the tienditas or we go to the SWAT meets, right? And we negotiate for our family. But when it comes to our needs and our things and our stuff, we have a hard time. And that is because we're raised with that double standards, right? We need to be empathic, but negotiation skills are very manly. They have to be win or loss, right? But that is not so. There is a process of negotiation called interest based, and you prepare yourself mentally before going into any negotiation. Assess how is it that I'm going to have a conversation with the other person so that I can learn what is of interest to them and what is of interest to me, so we can negotiate from that standpoint and not from the ego standpoint of position. When you go into a negotiation, and you're negotiating from a position base, you're talking to people's egos. You're talking to your ego, you're talking to their ego, and that's only going to lead to a win or loss type of negotiation. You want to go in with curiosity of learning what is your interest, why do you want what do you want, and then understand why is it that they want what they want, so that you can work with that and working in alignment to work in areas in where both of you feel that there's a win-win situation. And why is it that it works best? Because if you're using this in scenarios, in spaces, in where you're going to continue to work on with other people, you're going to be seen more as a collaborative person and collaborative partner instead of being seen like a rival, right? Like a negative person that it's so competitive that it win and lose type of situation. And that it's going to help you to build a good reputation. It's going to help you to build a good brand to yourself because you're able to negotiate and work with people in an alignment with their interest in your interest in bringing something new. Sometimes when you're working with people's interest, it is not them and it's not you that win. It's something new that you guys develop together. And that is the beauty of it. And learning and knowing how to negotiate goes hand in hand with your health.
I love that. And I think you've given us a lot of really nuggets. And once you have your book out, let us know so that we can so that we can share it and we can all benefit, right, from learning how to negotiate, and especially to what you're saying. One, become more aware of the things of what we don't know currently that we should know so that we can negotiate. And two, to understand, to your point, the values, right? How we were raised, the background, the limiting beliefs, which are unique to us, that in a way may be hindering us without us knowing it consciously in holding us back from having successful negotiations. So I take those two things really away from this conversation as being very important to keep in mind as we move forward. Thank you so much, Yvette, for being here with us. How can people get a hold of you?
Well, they can research, just put Yvette Durazo in Google, and you will be sent out to either my website, YouTube. I'm in LinkedIn. I'm a frequent poster in LinkedIn. I put newsletters there. Obviously, my website is unitivconsulting.com. And there's going to be a space on the top bar where you can see the books. I have 2 books. I have already the conflict intelligent book that I developed a couple of years ago. And then you're going to also find the women negotiation book that I'm putting together with the hope to be able to not only help my generation, but also be able to start re-educating our new generation so that it becomes part of a natural skill.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, Yvette. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And remember, we have our in-person conference. It's going to be our 5th annual, but our first in-person conference to celebrate Women's Month. It's going to be in Boston, Massachusetts on March 28th. So don't lose that one. You can already register. Early bird registration is not only open, but actually early bird finishes this week. So don't lose that opportunity and still register. We're going to be registering all the way through the day, March 28th, Boston, Massachusetts. You're going to have a blast. We are having a spectacular conference. And then we're also launching our Washington, D.C. chapter on March 6th. So if you're in the area, stay tuned for that. Registrations are right now open as well. And then we have a lot of other things that are coming up. We're going to have our Galentine's event that's going to be virtual. That's going to be on March 12th. And that is open for registration as well. All of this you can find on our website, unitedlatinas.com. Don't forget, this is your community to come, to be together, to get to know what you don't know, because that's going to be important, and find powerful Latinas like Yvette and like many others that will help us thrive. Thank you so much, Yvette.
Just very quickly, if they go to my website, in that place where there's resources, you can find a cheat sheet that I'm giving for free for tips on women negotiation. So your audience is welcome to go to the website and download that power. It's actually a PDF with tips of how to negotiate for free.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you, Sandra, for joining and many others for joining. And I know I'm seeing you on the chat. And I know that you've already registered. It's going to be exciting for the conference. Thank you so much, Yvette, for sharing those resources. We'll make sure to check them out. And thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful Wednesday and see you next week. Have a good one.
Thank you so much.